you see the deal that I stressed? Would you like me to send?
Just cue us when the grass is here. So, is this part of the project? We see a lot of native plants here. Can you tell us about how this came about?
This isn't directly a part of the neighborhood habitat improvement project, but we are partnering, we being the Western Great Lakes Bird and Bat Observatory, are partnering with a lot of different groups in and around Port Washington. And one of them is the city of Port Washington. So the person that helped establish this garden is a member of the Port Washington Garden Club.
Oh, nice.
She is very into native plants.
Yay.
And there are these wonderful tiered garden beds.
Oh, it's beautiful.
As I understand it, won at an auction, a landscaper, a native landscaper's plans and plants. And so she donated that to the library.
Nice.
And it's been installed, I think this is probably its second year of installation.
Wow. It's doing well.
I know that in my discussions with Tom Carson, who is the director of the Niederkorn Library, he was looking for volunteers to be involved. The observatory had been planning all sorts of programming this summer about habitat for
and
monarchs.
what happened to that, right?
And we were going to be doing some collaborative programming with the library, and of course that all fell through. But as our science director, Jen Phillips Vanderberg, just mentioned, that this will probably be something that will be taken in by the city workers who will then help to maintain this. So
Sure.
I'm sure that as we go forward, it's going to start looking a little bit more cared for. This has just been a really rough season for everybody.
Yeah. Well, invasives were, I think, up 600% this year. I don't know why, but they were. Well, it's beautiful. As you can see, there are a lot of, they're all native plants as far as I can see.
Yes.
The coneflowers we have, penstemon, we've got liatris in the back still blooming. That's gorgeous. An advantage of being near the lake. Everything stays in bloom for a while.
There's
Yeah.
purple
What do we
hyssop
have?
up high and goldenrod.
Geranium. Yeah, I see all kind. The hyssop up there. Joe Pye over here, Joe Pye weed. And the beautiful asters back here, the New England asters. They're gorgeous. And in front of it, swamp milkweed. Look at how beautiful and good that plant is. Nice and upright. And
Right.
it's a really, really nice landscape plant. Okay.
Well, I also think, Lisa, I'd like to mention a little bit about how we first got together.
Sure.
So 4 springs ago,
Four
the
cold
observatory
springs ago.
always does we always do a World Migratory Bird Day in May, and at that bird event, we sell native plants because those help birds.
Indeed. And pollinators.
And you were invited to do a program, and you have in subsequent years helped at the plant sale and just been a wonderful resource person.
Well, thank you.
So
Thank
I'm
you.
very excited to say that this year I am a brand new Wild Ones
yes,
member.
you are, and welcome.
And very glad to
Yes.
join such a wonderful organization.
Oh, thank you so much, and certainly what you guys are doing to create habitat, create knowledge, get people to move to action, which is what is happening with this project, which is why it is so exciting.
And
because we have the city backing it, you've got residents buying into it.
Yes.
I mean, that is the perfect storm, right? You'll always have the plants because they are always here.
Yes.
As long as we give them a space. So,
and we're building off of, I think this is one of the things that was so wonderful in terms of Jen,
yes,
is that we're building off of what the observatory's outreach did to establish a really wonderful research project. So
right, and Jen, you've done a lot of research. You've coordinated the polls, if you will, I think, to get those out to residents to find out what the interest level. You want to talk a little bit about that part of this project, kind of the beginning phases?
Sure. We just started the beginning phases of the Neighborhood Habitat Improvement Project this year. And what we did was asked a bunch of residents what their barriers to planting native plants were. So trying to figure out what do they see as the problems with native plants and what keeps them from actually getting them in. And also a little bit about what they see as the benefits of gardening in general, but also gardening potentially for wildlife. And what was really cool is that we saw that most people just didn't know how to care for them or how to make sure deer don't eat them and where to get them, which are all things that we can help people address. And the other thing that was really cool to see was that a lot of people wanted to create habitats for wildlife, but they were still figuring out how to do that and how to do that in their spaces. So this project is really all just about trying to figure out how to actually do that, which is really fun to kind of coordinate, like Jill was saying, coordinate what we've been doing in outreach with a research question. So what we're trying to ask about is if we can change people's behavior, do the birds change too? So what we wanted to see is if you can get more native plants into the community, like in city areas, but also in neighborhoods, do you see birds, healthier populations of birds, better nesting success? And we can ask that as a research organization in addition to an outreach organization.
Right, right. And, you know, to speak to your point, people that are landowners, live in the city, where do we start? I've heard that they look weedy. I've heard they are not pretty and, you know, all of that. So I think that is a key thing to encourage people. You know what? You could plant that swamp red milkweed, and it's a beautiful upright plant. You can plant black-eyed Susans. They're very popular, and that's actually a native. And as you were talking, you know, this is a couple of years old, this planting, and the city's going to take over some maintenance of it. Just like with any other plant, cultivar, native plant, when you first plant it, you have to try to find the best spot. You need to take care of it the first year or so. When it's dry, you need to water it. You need to help them along. But where natives are, you know, they greatly surpass. Thank you. Is that after that second, third year, where all of a sudden they become maintenance free. It's a drought. They're still looking beautiful, and you don't have to water them. You don't have to deadhead them. You're better off not to do that because of the wonderful
that brings in the bird population too.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. So I think people don't need to give up the cultivars they love. It's just add some natives to that landscape. Get rid of grass. You know, cut out part of your lawn and dedicate that to a milkweed patch. Just get something in your yard to get started. Because if you plant it, they will come.
They will come, exactly.
I don't know how sometimes, but they will come.
Yeah. Well, this is part of why we're really excited about the partnering with Wild Ones, because you have the background knowledge and the expertise to help as consultants to some of these neighborhood properties who, like Jen said, they would embrace native plantings, but they don't know how to care for them.
Right.
And so what we're hoping this first year, this is a multi-year project that will probably extend about 5 years long, but this first year we want to help people understand what their specific properties would be able to
support
exactly for native plants. So.
Yep, and as we put those native plants into yards, into parks, into green spaces, we're creating corridors.
Yes.
So that the pollinators, the birds, the mammals, they can move around. They're not limited to one oasis.
Correct.
Of native plants, nectar, seed, you know, whatever they need. So that little bit of just plant a plant, put some milkweed if nothing else.
Yes. And that really
in your yard.
That really speaks to how Jen went about selecting the pilot neighborhoods.
Yeah, so we didn't, we're trying to target a few areas that are of more ecological importance. So we're picking 2 really big neighborhoods that are near parks in Port Washington, so that essentially we can create these big islands, habitat islands of both park areas, but also residential areas around them so that together they can be these big habitats like you're talking about, so we can create sustainable populations of pollinators and birds. And we know that if we have healthy insect populations, we can have healthy bird populations.
And
our
vice
bird,
versa.
yes,
If you don't have those insects, even those small mosquitoes, that's where it all starts.
Yeah.
yes.
Well, it doesn't start there. Actually, the native plants start.
Yeah.
But yeah, that the opposite will happen if we don't do something.
And there's a little bit of research, mostly done out east, that if you have these native plants, then you can have healthier or more nesting success. So birds are able to fledge more young than they would if you have just a sea of turf grass and no natives. And what we're trying to do is figure out, is that the same thing for Wisconsin, and do some good things for pollinators while we're figuring it out.
Yeah, why not? If you're going to plant, why not plant natives?